Welcome to 10 Minutes a Day, a daily reading of the Catholic Church's social encyclicals. Today we continue with Rerum Novarum, written by Pope Leo XIII in 1891.
Those who labor at a trade or calling do not promote the general welfare in such a measure as this, but they benefit the nation, if less directly, and in most important manner. We have insisted, it is true, that since the end of society is to make men better, the chief good that society can possess is virtue. Nevertheless, it is the business of a well-constituted body politic to see that the provision of those material and external helps, the use of which is necessary to virtuous action. Now, for the provision of such commodities, the labor of the working class, the exercise of their skill, and the employment of their strength, in the cultivation of the land, and in the workshops of trade, is especially responsible and quite indispensable. Indeed, their cooperation is in this respect so important that it may be truly said that it is only by the labor of working men that states grow rich. Justice, therefore, demands that the interests of the working classes should be carefully watched over by the administration, so that they who contribute so largely to the advantage of the community may themselves share in the benefits which they create, that, being housed, clothed, and bodily fit, they may find their life less hard and more endurable. It follows that whatever shall appear to prove conducive to the well-being of those who work should obtain favorable consideration. There's no fear that solicitude of this kind will be harmful to any interest. On the contrary, it will be to the advantage of all, for it cannot but be good for the commonwealth to shield from misery those on whom it so largely depends for the things it needs. We have said that the state must not absorb the individual or the family. Both should be allowed free and untrammeled action, so far as it is consistent with the common good and the interests of others. Rulers should, nevertheless, anxiously safeguard the community and all its members. The community, because the conservation thereof is so emphatically the business of the supreme power, that the safety of the commonwealth is not only the first law, but is the government's whole reason of existence, and the members, because good philosophy and the gospel concur in laying down that the object of the government of the state should be, not the advantage of the ruler, but the benefit of those over whom he is placed. As the power to rule comes from God, and is, as it were, a participation in his, the highest of all sovereignties, it should be exercised as the power of God is exercised, with a fatherly solicitude, which not only guides the whole, but reaches also individuals. Whenever the general interest or any particular class suffers, or is threatened with harm, which can in no other way be met or prevented, the public authority must step in to deal with it. Now, it is the interest of the community, as well as the individual, that peace and good order should be maintained, that all things should be carried on in accordance with God's laws and those of nature, the discipline of family life should be observed, and that religion should be obeyed, that a high standard of morality should prevail, both in public and private life, that justice should be held sacred, and that no one should injure another with impunity, that the members of the commonwealth should grow up to man's estate strong and robust, and capable, if need be, of guarding and defending their country. If by a strike of workers or a concerted interruption of work there should be an imminent danger of disturbance to the public's peace, or if circumstances were such that among the working classes the ties of family life were relaxed, if religion were found to suffer through the workers not having time and opportunity afforded them to practice its duties, if in workshops and factories there were danger to morals through the mixing of the sexes, or from other harmful occasions of evil, or if employers laid burden upon their workmen which were unjust, or degraded them with conditions repugnant to their dignity as human beings, finally, if health were endangered by excessive labor, or by work unsuited to sex or age, in such cases there can be no question but that, within certain limits, it would be right to invoke the aid and authority of the law. Limits must be determined by the nature of the occasion which calls for the law's interference. The principle being that the law must not undertake more nor proceed further than is required for the remedy of the evil or the removal of the mischief. Rights must be religiously respected wherever they exist. It is the duty of the public authority to prevent and to punish injury, and to protect everyone in the possession of his own. Still, when there is a question of defending the rights of individuals, the poor and badly off have a claim to a special consideration. The richer class may have many ways of shielding themselves and stand less in need of help from the state, whereas the mass of the poor have no resources of their own to fall back upon, and must chiefly depend upon the assistance of the state. It is for this reason that wage earners, since they mostly belong in the mass of the needy, should be specially cared for and protected by the government. Here, however, it is expedient to bring under special notice certain matters of moment. First of all, there is a duty of safeguarding private property by legal enactment and protection. Most of all, it is essential, where the passion of greed is so strong, to keep the populace within the line of duty. For, if all may justly strive to better their condition, neither justice nor the common good allows any individual to seize upon that which belongs to another, or, under the futile and shallow pretext of equality, to lay violent hands, on other people's possessions. Most true it is that, by far, the larger part of the workers prefer to better themselves by honest labor, rather than by doing any wrong to others. But there are not a few who are imbued with evil principles and eager for revolutionary change, whose main purpose is to stir up discord and incite their fellows to acts of violence. The authority of the law should intervene to put restraint upon such firebrands, to save the working classes from being led astray by their maneuvers, and to protect lawful owners from spoliation. When workpeople have recourse to a strike and become voluntarily idle, it is frequently because the hours of labor are too long, or the work too hard, or because they consider their wages insufficient. The grave inconvenience of this not uncommon occurrence should be obviated by public remedial measures, for such paralyzing of labor not only affects the masters and the workpeople alike, but is extremely injurious to trade and the general interests of the public. Moreover, on such occasions, violence and discord are generally not far distant, and thus it frequently happens that the public peace is imperiled. The law should forestall and prevent such troubles from arising. They should lend their influence and authority to the removal in good time of the causes which lead to conflicts between employers and employed. The working man, too, has interests in which he should be protected by the state, and first of all, there are the interests of his soul. Life on earth, however good and desirable in itself, is not the final purpose for which man is created. It is only the way and the means to that attainment of truth and that love of goodness in which the full life of the soul consists. It is the soul which is made after the image and likeness of God. It is in the soul that the sovereignty resides in virtue, whereof man is commanded to rule the creatures below him, and to use all the earth and the ocean for his profit and advantage. Fill the earth and subdue it, and rule over the fishes of the seas, and the fowls of the air, and all living creatures that move upon the earth. In this respect, all men are equal, and there is here no difference between rich and poor, master and servant, ruler and ruled, for the same is Lord over all. No man with impunity may outrage that human dignity which God himself treats with great reverence, nor stand in the way of that higher life, which is the preparation of the eternal life of heaven. Nay, more, no man has in this matter power over himself. To consent to any treatment which is calculated to defeat the end and purpose of his being is beyond his right. He cannot give up his soul to servitude, for it is not man's own rights which are here in question, but the rights of God, the most sacred and inviolable of rights.